Picture this. If all of California's homeless people formed their own country, it would have a larger population than each of about 50 independent nations.
We're talking 181,000 people sleeping on streets, in cars, or in shelters right now. That's more people than live in entire countries like Grenada, Tonga, or the Maldives. You know, that fancy vacation spot where celebrities go to post Instagram photos.
And here's what makes this extra weird. California isn't some struggling economy barely keeping the lights on.
This is the state that gave us Apple, Google, Netflix, and Hollywood. If California were its own country, it would be the 5th largest economy on Earth, sitting between Germany and India on the global rankings. They've got more money than the entire United Kingdom.
So, when a place this wealthy has a homelessness problem bigger than most countries' entire populations, something seriously strange is happening. Let's figure out what. Meet Sarah. Sarah works full-time at a coffee shop in San Diego, making $18 an hour. That's actually above California's minimum wage of $16, so she's doing better than a lot of people. She works 40 hours a week, which comes out to about $3,100 a month before taxes. After taxes, she takes home roughly $2,500. Not bad, right?
Now, here's where things get interesting. Sarah finds a one-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy, it's in an okay neighborhood, kind of old, definitely not Instagram-worthy. The rent? $2,200 a month. That leaves Sarah with $300 for the entire month to cover food, gas, car insurance, phone bill, and literally everything else she needs to survive. One trip to the dentist, one car problem, one unexpected anything, and Sarah's entire financial life falls apart like a house of cards in a wind tunnel.
Now let's hop over to Texas and meet Marcus. Marcus does the exact same job as Sarah. Same hours, same hourly wage of $18. But Marcus pays $1,100 a month for his apartment. After rent, Marcus has $1,400 left over each month. He can save money, he can handle emergencies, he can actually, live. Same job, same effort, completely different reality. And that's the California housing crisis in a nutshell, except it's way worse than just one example. The median rent for a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco right now is around $3,000 a month. In Los Angeles, about $2,400. Even in Bakersfield, which is definitely not anyone's idea of a glamorous city, you're looking at $1,300 minimum.
Financial experts say you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. That's the magic number where you can still afford food, transportation, and the occasional treat without your life becoming a constant anxiety spiral.
So, to afford that $3,000 apartment in San Francisco without being rent-burdened, which is the technical term for spending so much on rent that you're basically screwed, you'd need to make about $120,000 a year.
The median household income in California, around $91,000. Most families don't even come close to the income needed to afford rent comfortably. And if you're making minimum wage in California, $16 an hour, you're bringing in about $33,000 a year before taxes.
Show me any apartment in any California city that doesn't eat up 60 to 80% of that income, and I'll show you a unicorn riding a skateboard. It just doesn't exist. So here's the question. Why is California housing so absurdly expensive? 2 words, supply and demand. Except in California's case, it's more like massive demand meets we forgot to build enough houses for 30 years. Between 1980 and 2010, California's population grew by roughly 10 million people. That's like adding the entire population of North Carolina to your state. But the number of housing units built during that same time? Only about 3 million. So you've got 10 million new people fighting over 3 million new homes. It's like musical chairs, except there are 100 people and only 30 chairs, and the music never stops, and also the chairs cost $3,000 a month just to sit in. When demand skyrockets and supply barely moves, prices go absolutely bonkers. But it's not like California just decided to stop building homes for fun. There are actual reasons, and they're complicated, frustrating, and kind of hilarious in a dark comedy sort of way.
First up, NIMBYism. NIMBY stands for Not in My Backyard, and it's basically when people say, yes, we need more housing, but not here. Build it somewhere else. Imagine you're a developer trying to build a new apartment building in a nice San Francisco neighborhood. You think you're doing everyone a favor, right? More housing means lower prices, more options, less homelessness. Except the moment you announce your plans, 50 angry homeowners show up to city council meetings with poster boards explaining why your building will block their view, increase traffic, ruin the character of the neighborhood, lower their property values, and bring in the wrong kind of people, which is usually code for something way less polite. These meetings can drag on for months, sometimes years.
And here's the kicker. The people who desperately need housing, the Sarahs working at coffee shops barely scraping by, they're not at these meetings.
They're working 2 jobs trying to keep a roof over their heads. So the only voices city planners hear are from people who already own homes and don't want anything to change. Then there's zoning laws. Huge chunks of California's cities are zoned exclusively for single-family homes.
You literally cannot build an apartment building there even if you wanted to. Even if there's huge demand. Even if people are sleeping in their cars 2 blocks away. The zoning code says single-family homes only, and that's that. About 75% of residential land in most California cities is zoned this way, which means 3/4 of the city is off-limits for the kind of dense, affordable housing that could actually help solve the problem. Then you've got environmental regulations, which sound good on paper, but can make building anything take forever. California has strict environmental review processes. Any new development has to go through months of studies analyzing its impact on traffic, air quality, wildlife, and about 17 other things. Again, protecting the environment is important. Nobody wants to pave over a nature preserve or poison the water supply. But when it takes 5 years and millions of dollars in legal fees just to get approval to build an apartment complex, developers either give up or only build luxury condos for rich people because that's the only way the math works out. You know what doesn't get built? Affordable housing for Sarah the barista. Add in parking requirements where cities force developers to include expensive parking spaces that cost $50,000 each to build underground, and height restrictions that prevent tall buildings, and you've got a recipe for disaster. By the time a developer navigates all these obstacles, a project that should have taken 2 years has taken 7 and cost twice the original budget. So most developers just don't bother. Or they build high-end luxury apartments where they can charge $4,000 a month and still make a profit. The people who actually need affordable housing get nothing. Now here's where California's problem gets even more complicated. The weather. I know that sounds random, but stay with me. California has the mildest climate in America. It doesn't get freezing cold in winter. It barely rains. You're not going to die of hypothermia sleeping outside in Los Angeles the way you might in Chicago or Minneapolis. If you're going to be homeless anywhere in the United States, California is honestly one of the less terrible options. So people who become homeless in other states where winters are brutal, or where police actively harass homeless people, or where there are 0 services, sometimes make their way to California. And some cities in other states have actually been caught buying one-way bus tickets for their homeless populations and sending them to California. It's called Greyhound therapy, and yes, it's as messed up as it sounds. Cities would rather pay $100 for a bus ticket than deal with their own homelessness problem.
So California ends up absorbing not just its own homelessness crisis, but also homeless people from across the country who've been literally shipped there.
But wait, there's more. California actually tries to help homeless people more than most states. They have more shelters, more meal programs, more social services, more tolerance for tent encampments. Which sounds great, right? Except it creates what's called the service magnet effect. The better your services, the more homeless people you attract. And the more homeless people you attract, the more overwhelmed your services become. It's like being the only house in the neighborhood that hands out full-size candy bars on Halloween.
Word gets around, and suddenly you've got 500 kids on your lawn, and you've run out of candy by 7 p.m.
San Francisco spends over $1 billion a year, with a B, on homelessness programs. Los Angeles spends close to that. But the problem keeps getting worse because you can't solve a housing shortage by just providing services. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine there are 100 people who need chairs, but only 70 chairs exist. You can spend millions on job training programs, addiction counseling, mental health services, all genuinely helpful things, but at the end of the day, 30 people still won't have a chair.
That's California. They're spending billions treating symptoms while the root cause, not enough affordable housing, remains unfixed. And even when California tries to build more, NIMBYs block it, zoning laws prevent it, environmental reviews delay it, and the only thing that gets built is luxury apartments that don't help anyone who's struggling. Oh, and there's one more twist, Prop 13. This is a California law from 1978 that locks property taxes at super low rates for people who've owned their homes for a long time. Sounds nice for homeowners, and it is, but it means cities don't collect much tax revenue, which means less money for affordable housing, public services, and infrastructure. Plus, it discourages people from ever selling their homes because they lose that sweet low tax rate. So houses just sit there, occupied by the same families for decades, while new people can't find anywhere to move. Less housing turnover, less supply, higher prices. Everything's connected in the worst possible way.
And here's the thing about homelessness. Once you're on the street, climbing back up is incredibly hard. You can't get a job without an address. You can't get an address without money. You can't save money when every day is about survival. Add in mental health issues or addiction, which many homeless people struggle with, and which get worse when you're living on the street, and it becomes nearly impossible to escape. California does have mental health programs and rehab facilities, but they're underfunded and overwhelmed. There aren't enough beds, there aren't enough counselors, there aren't enough resources. It's a system that's been set up to fail. So, in conclusion, California has more homeless people than most countries, not because it's full of lazy people or because the government doesn't care, but because of a perfect storm of impossible circumstances. Housing costs that have skyrocketed beyond what normal people can afford, decades of underbuilding due to zoning laws, NIMBYism, and regulatory obstacles, a mild climate that makes outdoor survival possible, better services than other states, which attracts people in need, wages that haven't kept pace with rent, and a mental health system that can't handle the demand. It's what happens when housing becomes an investment commodity instead of a basic human necessity, when cities grow faster than their housing supply, when neighbors fight every new development, and when building a simple apartment takes 5 years and costs a fortune. The frustrating part? It's totally fixable. Build way more housing, especially affordable housing. Reform zoning laws to allow density, speed up approvals, invest seriously in mental health and addiction services. Treat housing as infrastructure, not just a money-making opportunity. But that requires political courage, tons of money, and years of sustained effort. And in the meantime, 181,000 people in California don't have a place to sleep tonight. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.